First of all, I would like to personally invite everybody this Matzah Shabbos. I will have Malka and a Siyum on Masechtas Rosh Hashanah in my house. I'm looking forward to seeing everybody there. Today's shir, the topic is about 7:45. The topic is giving Meiser, the amount, a minimum and a maximum. And at least lefi some of the shitas, it's learned out of this week's parsha. The pasuk in this week's parsha says, "Va'evan azois Yaakov Avinu said, Asher samti matzeva yeh beis elikim, v'chol asher titen li." Yaakov said, "Whatever you're going to give me, aser asrenu loch. Whatever you're going to give, I'm going to give Meiser. I'm going to give 10%." But pashtus, this is a din that we know that a person is supposed to give 10% of his wealth to Tzedaka, Meiser. But pashtus, that's what this pasuk is saying. V'chol asher titen li. Everything that you're going to give me, everything. If you turn back by Yitzchak, in the previous parsha, by Yitzchak Avinu, it says, Meir Sha'arim. So Rashi brings the Medrash, Rabbi Seinu Amru, Oymid Zeh L'Maisris Hoya. Yitzchak already gave Maisris, Trumas and Maisris on fruits, on Tvua. Like the Rambam says, the Rambam in Perek Test from Malachim, Malacha Aleph, the Rambam goes through the mitzvahs till he got to Noach, V'sheva mitzvahs b'nei Noach, and then afterwards what Avram was masak in the Lashon HaRambam. V'chein hoya adav b'chol ha'ilam ad Avram nitztava yeser b'mila. Avram Avinu got the mitzvah of Mila, and he was mispal Shachris. The Yitzchak Hifresh Meiser. That Meiser is Meiser on fruits. But now, what Yaakov gave, Chol Hashatit and Aser Asrenu, the pashtus is the Meiser of Meiser Ksofim. To give Meiser not only on fruits that we know is Noyig now in Eretz Yisrael, on Trumas Meiseris on fruits, but rather on anything, any income that you make, you have to give Meiser, you have to give 10%. The Das Akanim over here brings a medrash that from this pasuk, V'chol Hashatit and Li Aser Asrenu, we learn that he's a Choivas Meiser to give 10%. Interesting, the Rambam in Hilchas Avodah Zarah, the Rambam says that Yaakov gave Meiser on everything, even on his children. One of his kids he gave for Torah, that was Levi. You know, Levi was meyucha to learn, but what we're focusing today is on the Meiser of a person's income. Yaakov Avinu said, whatever you're going to give me, any money, any income, I'm going to give 10%. That's one makor, the medrash, the Das Akanim brings from our pasuk, our parsha, the pasuk Aser Asrenu, 10%. Tosfos in the Sechtes Tainis, Tosfos in Tainis, Daf Tesam and Aleph, Tosfos brings us a free. And the truth is, it's not in the Sifri. I took a look to see, and I didn't find it over there on the pasuk of where Tosfos brings it, but could be it's somewhere else. But the Mesoras Ashas over there is mitzayin that it's not a safri, but it's actually a medrash tanchuma. And the medrash says on the pasuk of Aser to Aser, we lay in Aser to Aser by on Yom Tif, Aser to Aser. So over there, the pasuk of Aser to Aser to give Meiser as called Tvua Zaracha, to give on all your Tvua, you have to give Meiser. So the Tanchuma says Minayin l'Rabbis, something that's not Tvua. Minayin l'Rabbis, the Lashon, read it over here. Ein li ela Tvua Zaracha. A person has to give Meiser on his Tvua, on his Paris. Shechayev b'Meiser, Ribis of a goyu, prakmatia. When you make a business deal and you make money, v'chol shari v'achim, any income, minayin, that you have to give Meiser, Talmud loymar, eskol. It could have just said, aser to aser, tvua zaracha, what's eskol, all, l'rabbis, my kol l'rabbis, ribis of prakmati, v'chol davar shemar v'yach. So you see here, another way, another drasha, of a chiyuv for a person to give Meiser. These the mitzvah of Tzedaka that we're not talking about now. We're talking about the din of Meiser. To give, a person makes $100,000 the year, he has to give $10,000 Meiser to Tzedaka. But pashtus, what would we say? We would say tol now, but Pashas it's a deraisa. Either it's a medrash learns it from our pasuk, so maybe it's a drush. But from the Tanchuma, we have a drasha kol the rabbis, even money that you have to give meiser. But Pashas that drasha kol the rabbis is coming to say that he's a chayvus meiser midiraisa. And the truth in the matter is that the Chassam Sofer brings the Maril. The Chassam Sofer in Shuvas in Yeridea says that it's taka deraisa. It's in Yeridea Siman Reish Lamed Beis that the din of giving meiser ksafim is a chiyuv midiraisa. However, Reb Kiveger in Mishnayos on Peah learns that it's not a deraisa. The Mishnah we say every single day, Elu devarim she'ein lam shir, hapeya v'abikurim. One of the mitzvahs that we list out is gemilas chasadim. What's gemilas chasadim? These gemilas chasadim that a person can do chesed begufay, which means you help a person out, you give him a ride, you bring something, you deliver, you give him a hand. That's gemilas chasadim de gufay. Then these gemilas chasadim de memoynai. It's a chesed. A person needs money for groceries. A person needs money, so it's also chesed. It's gemilas chasadim de memoynai. So the Rav says that when the Mishnah says Elu devarim she'ein lahem shir, there's no shir. What is no shir by gemilas chasadim? Only gemilas chasadim de gufay. Chesed begufay. There's no shir. There's no shir. There's no amount. However, says the Rav, when it comes to gemilas chasadim de memoynai, how much money to give, there is a shir, and we're going to speak about it soon. The Gemara says that there's a maximum a person should give is a chaimish, which is 20%. We're speaking about 10%, but there's a cap up until chaimish, up until 20% a person could give. So what does the Mishnah say? Elu dvarim she'ein lam shir. There is a shir. So the teretz is the Mishnah is only speaking about gemilas chasadim de gufay, not gemilas chasadim de memoynai. Gemilas chasadim de memoynai, there is a shir. That's what the Rav says. However, the Tosfos Yomtiv and the Mafarish on the side, the Chadusha Mariach, both explain that the din of the mission of Gemilas Chasadim is speaking about memoynai, also about money. Well, it's also speaking about doing chesed of giving money. Ein lam shir, there is a shir, a chaimish. So they say that ein lam shir midiraisa. You'll find these other cases that also have a shir midirabanan. This that it says ein lam shir, when you say this every single morning, Elu dvarim she'ein lam shir, they explain ein lam shir means ein lam shir midiraisa, but midirabanan there is a shir. So there is taka a shir, a cap above, which is up until a chaimish, but that's only midirabanan. Reb Kiveger in Tosfos Mishnah says, he kind of asks, what happened to the din that we're speaking about now, that you about meiser to give a tenth? In other words, we just said there's a drasha that you're supposed to give, just like you're supposed to give meiser on fruit, you're supposed to give meiser on money with a drasha. So there is a shir midiraisa, elu dvarim she'ein lam shir, gemilas chasadim. There's a shir how much money you're supposed to give. You're supposed to give 10%. So Kiveger says that rush is einay el asmachta ba'alma. It's not only midrabanan. The din that a person is supposed to give meiser on his money is only midrabanan. So we have so far a machlokes. We have two places we had to learn the din of meiser, either from our parsha or in re'ei aser to aser as kol the rabbis meiser ksafim. And we so far have a machlokes if the chayvas meiser is a chiyuv midiraisa or it's a chiyuv midirabanan. But we're not finished yet. There's another tzad in the chayvas meiser. The Shulchan Aruch and Hilchas Trumas in Yeridea Siman Shin Lamed Aleph. It's the longest siman in all of Shulchan Aruch. 146 seifim. The last sif in that siman Kuf Mem Vav, after the Shulchan Aruch goes through Hilchas Trumas and Meisris, the Ramah says, Hagah, why did the Shulchan Aruch leave out Hilchas Meiser Ani? What happened to Hilchas Meiser Ani? And the Ramah says it's important to bring Hilchas Meiser Ani, just like the Torah brought Hilchas Meiser Ani, because many dinim of Tzedaka are learned from Meiser Ani. So the Ramah at the end of Siman Shin Lamed Aleph asks, after 146 seifim going through Trumas HaMeisers, asks the Ramah, and what happened to the halachas of Meiser Ani? That's the Ramah's question. So the Ramah says, V'shema, that the Shulchan Aruch already relied on what he wrote in Hilchas Tzedaka. Hilchas Tzedaka is 13 simanim long, from Siman Reish Mem Zayin all the way up until Reish Samach till Hilchas Milah. So the Shulchan Aruch left out Meiser Ani because Meiser Ani is negeya to know Hilchas Tzedaka, Hilchas Meiser. So said the Ramah, we know it already. The Shulchan Aruch spoke in length about Hilchas Tzedaka. Says the Bach, and the Taz is right there on that Ramah. This din of Meiser Ksafim, Einoi, loy midei Raisa, v'loy midei Rabbanan. Just quote the lashon inside. We only speak about Meiser Ani, V'zera Arachi Mitzvos Asay Min HaTorah. Avol Masha Adam Meiser Masher Marviach B'Masu Matin. A person that gives Meiser of his Meiser Ksafim from his money, V'shar Revachim Einoi B'chlal Zeh. It's not included in Meiser Ani. V'yochel litem b'moynel tzedakah l'pedin shvuyim shaharei Einoi chayiv ba loy min HaTorah v'loy min Rabbanan. Meiser Ksafim that we give, you're not mechuyev, not midiraisa, which we saw before, could either be a pasuk in this week's parasha or the pasuk of Aser to Aser. It's not midirabanon to say that those are eina el smachta. So what is it? Yeah, the Pischei Tshuva over there on Hilchas Trumas. The Pischei Tshuva brings, see what's Sivkatan Yud Beis. The Pischei Tshuva comes to defend this Shitas Abach. Because they all go out on the Bach. How could he be machadash such a thing that my Ksafim is not with the rice and not even with the Rabbanon? How could you say such a thing? So the Pischei Tshuva says that, I don't know what your question is. If you take a look, the Tshuvas Marami Rutenberg, which was the Rebbe of the Rosh, one of the Rishonim, already say that it's not with the rice and the din of my Ksafim is not with the rice and not with the Rabbanon. But what is it? Yeah, it's a minig. It's a minig to give meiser. But therefore he says, since it's a minig, just like any minig toiv that a person's noyig, if a person's a noyig a minig toiv, it becomes a neder, and you can't stop doing it. You can make a taras nadarim, but you can't stop doing it. So if a person starts giving meiser, it's a minig toiv medin neder, and you can't stop. So what we have so far in the mitzvah of Meiser Ksafim, the din of Meiser Ksafim, the halacha, either it's the Raisa to give, the Rabbanon, and now we see even a third side, not the Raisa, not the Rabbanon, but it's a minug. Now we'll move on to the second part, which is also said and mismach from our pasuk, but this din is for sure only a Rabbanon. It's not the Raisa, it's not minug, it's a din the Rabbanon. The Gemara says in Ksubas Tafnun, Bu'usha Heskinu. They made a takana, Hamavazves. Person wants to be generous, made a lot of money, you have millions of dollars, and you could afford to give way more than Meiser. You'll still be left with a lot of money. Hamavazves, or even a person not with millions of dollars, a person wants to give more than Meiser. Al Yevazves Yoisem Achaimish. Don't give more than 20%. Don't give more than 20%. You give 10%, but not more than 20%. From $100, $10, so don't give more than $20. And the Gemara says, why? Why not? Shemo yitztarach labrius. In other words, if a person is going to give away too much tzedakah, he might become poor. He's not going to have funds for himself, and therefore, these are maximum to how much mice a person should give. What did you say?
After you tell it, Harvard. Tell us.
I'll take Tzaddik Harbi, yeah?
There's no tzad whatsoever to give more than 20%.
Oh, David's asking a very good question. So, David's making is going to be making even much more, and he wants to give a lot more. Person wants to give. You want to give more than the chaimish. It's not for right now, but I once gave a shir. These 11 different ways, or heterim, however you want to call it, that one could give more than a chaimish. One is actually a oisher muflig, a person who made a lot of money. But I could give it to you afterwards. It's a shir. I could send you the link. I could give you the notes of it. Right. But these 11 different oifanim that a person could give. But we're going to focus on the ikra din. The din is that a person should not give more than a chaimish. So that also is, David's asking, is it broken down in a specific way? The question is not only by chaimish, it's by meiser also. So the Beis Yosef and it's brought in halacha explain, this is the basic, but obviously the halachas of meiser and chaimish are complex. How do you cheshbon from what's called revach, what's an expense? That obviously we can't cover over here. But one thing I do want to share with you is what the Beis Yosef already brings, that the way to give meiser, and the same thing would be chaimish, is the first year you take off from the keren, the base money 10%, which means you start off this year, you have capital. However you have the money, whether if a person got it as a gift, as a Yerusha, a person has now $100,000, you give 10% of that, not more than a chaimish. Then every year afterwards, it's 10% of your gain. So after the first year, from the second year, the person made $100,000 profit. From that $100,000 profit, you give 10%. Not how much the company is valued at. You give 10% of the profit. So there's a din, a person should not give more than 20%, more than a chaimish. The Gemara brings out the pasuk in our parsha. The pasuk says, aser to aser. Mikra, not that it's a deraisa, it's a derabanan, but Mikra, v'chol ashetitin li aser asrenu lach. Rashi explains, it could have said aser a aser. Means Yaakov is saying, I'm going to give meiser. I'll give meiser. Aser a aser, I'll give meiser. What's a asrenu? A asrenu means I'll give meiser, and then I'll give meiser like the first meiser, which means one time 10%, and again 10%. Which equals 20%, and the Gemara says that's the cap, not to give more than 20%. Now, before we mention, there are ways that even though the Gemara says you should not give more, is it an eitzah taiva, but you're really allowed to, or it's an isser? The Gemara says b'usha hiskinu. Is one allowed to give above 20%, above a chaimish?
The way you just said it is 10% and 10% after 10%. So you get $100,000 and you give $10,000. You only have $90,000 left. And you're giving $9,000, you're giving another 10.
Well asked. You want to know, when you gave meiser 10% and then you give another 10%, it's not going to be another $10,000 of $100,000 because you're only left with 90. So the answer is no. It's not less than 10,000. Right from the beginning, the 100,000 that you have, you take off 20,000. Very good. And even when I read Rashi, Aser Asrenu, that the second meiser will be like the same, it doesn't mean that it's going to be taken off later after you only left. It just means right from the beginning, I'm going to take off 10%, which obviously equals 20%, a full 20,000 out of 100,000, for an example. Is one allowed to give more than a chaimish, or you're not allowed? The Rambam in Pirush HaMishnayos, on that Mishnah, the Rambam seems pretty clearly that it's an eitzah taiva. You're allowed to. Left out on the Iker din of giving a chaimish, the Balaturim over here on this week's, on the Aser to Aser says it's begematria kolam avazviz al yavazviz yoisem a chaimish. So this that the Gemara says from our pasuk, it's even a gematria, but it's a drabanan. The Rambam appears Shamashnayis. The Rambam says the following: V'lo yischayev losses yoisem achamishas memoin. You're not mechuyev to give more than 20%. Levadim asa came b'mitzvos chasidus. If a person wants, he's allowed to, but it's a mitzvos chasidus. You're not mechuyev. There's no requirement to give more, but you're allowed to. Mi'idoch, Reb Moshe Feinstein in the Tshuva doesn't argue on the Rambam, but first he says is that the mashmoyis of the Gemara, brings a different Gemara, is mashma clearly that it's aser. A person's not allowed to give more than 20%. Again, we mentioned before there are exceptions, but in the din itself, a person's not allowed to give more than 20%. And he learns like that the Shita in the Rambam. So we have a machlokes on this din the Rabbanon of giving 20, not more than 20%. Is it an Eitzah Toiva, or it's actually Issa you're not allowed? Now let's explore if this din of giving Meiser, and the same is also about giving not giving more than a Chaimish, is it only by Tzedaka on the income that you made, or is it said by other mitzvahs as well? Meaning to say, if there's a certain mitzvah that you want to be makayim. For an example, an esrog. Most of the esrogim got ruined. There's very, very limited esrogim. And the only way you can be makayim the mitzvah of esrog, to buy an esrog, is by spending a lot of money. Is there a halacha how much to spend? In tzedakah, we said clearly, there's a minimum, either midiraisa, midirabanan, or minug, to give minimally a minimum of 10%, a maximum of 20%. What's about mitzvahs? So the Shulchan Aruch and Hilchas Lulav, Siman Taf Reish Nun Vav, the Ramah says, Umisha Inloi Esrig, a person doesn't have an Esrig, Oy Shar Mitzvah Iveris, any other mitzvah, he doesn't have an Esrig, and the only way to get it is to spend a lot of money. You don't have to spend a lot of money on the mitzvah. This din al yivazviz yoisam achaimish. This din of the Ramah is the Rishonim. It's the Rosh and Rabbeinu Yeruchim, and how the Mishnah Berurah explains why is a person not supposed to give more than 10%, 20%? Because a person shouldn't become poor. If that's the reason, you could say that reason for other mitzvahs also. Yes, the Torah says to Makayim a mitzvah of esrig, but not if it's going to make you poor, then you don't have to. So therefore, says the Ramah, a person does not have to spend above 20% on buying the mitzvah. We're not talking about Hiddur over here. We're talking about that if you're not going to buy the esrig, you're not going to have the esrig, and you're not going to be Makayim the mitzvah, the maximum is 20%. Furthermore, says the Mishnah Berurah, which both of this is basically almost in the Rishonim, that the minimum, there's also a minimum. Just like Meiser, there's a minimum of 10%. So too, by these mitzvahs, a person has to spend 10% of his money for a mitzvah that he will not be able to get the mitzvah without spending that amount. That's the Shittas Rishonim that the Ramah brings. The Beis Yosef asks, and the Beis Yosef says, true, by tzedakah, a person has to give 10% and a maximum of 20%. But maybe by mitzvahs you have to give even more than 20%, because it's a mitzvah iveris, which means if you're not going to pay the money for an esrig, it's going to come sukkahs, you're not going to have an esrig to do the mitzvah. So therefore you have to pay more than 20%. So even though the Gemara says that don't give more than 20% of your wealth, you shouldn't have to come to collect yourself, but maybe that's only for tzedakah. When it comes to other mitzvahs, if you're not going to pay money for the mitzvah, you're not going to be able to make the mitzvah, could be you have to spend more. So we have the din of chaimish, which is said by tzedakah. The Rishonim say pashtus, it's by other mitzvahs. And the Beis Yosef questions that. The Bir Halacha over here in Siman Taf Reish Nun Vav has a big arichas to explain the two tzaddim. But we see by other mitzvahs, pashtus in the Rishonim, there's also a din. Minimum 10%, maximum 20%. But here's one more din. The final din for today in this topic. The Ramah says, Avo lo isasei, when it comes to Aveira, not to be oivin Aveira, what's the halach over there? Tzedakah, maximum a 20th. Shar mitzvahs, pashtus also a 20th. What's about, he could get away not doing an Aveira, by paying a lot of money. What's the cap over there? What's the maximum? Zokter Ramah, Avo loisas a yitain kol memoinoi. He has to give all his money. Yitain kol memoinoi koidim sheyaver. He has to give all his money. What's the difference? What's the chiluk between a mitzvah asay and a mitzvah lois asay? That a mitzvah asay, there's a cap of 20%, a maximum. And a mitzvah lois asay, there's no maximum. You have to give away all your money. The Chassam Sofer on this Siman Tafresh Nun Vav, is mesupik, and this brings out what he's mesupik, what the reason, the chiluk between a mitzvah asay and a mitzvah lois asay. A mitzvah asay, if you don't do the asay, what happens if you don't buy the lulav? So what's going to happen to Asrik? What's going to come sukkos? You just didn't do the mitzvah. As opposed to a lois asay, let's give an example to each shreifas. If a person doesn't spend the money, what is he doing? He's going to be over the aveira b'kum va'aseh. He's physically going to do the aveira. By the mitzvah, if you don't do that, if you're not going to buy the mitzvah, you're just not going to have it, and it's just going to pass without not being makayim. You'll mavatal, and I'll say you're not being makayim the mitzvah. However, the lav, by a person not doing the lav, by a person not getting himself out of the lav, he's actually being over an aveira b'kum va'aseh. Says the Chassam Sofer, I'll show you nafkaminus. There is an asay which you can be over b'kum v'asay by shvius. It's an asay that it's la'achla, to eat the peiris, v'loy l'schayra, not to do business with peiris of shvius, not to ruin it, not to ma'abed peiris shvius. So what happens if a person wants to get out of not ruining or not doing schayra with peiris shvius? So if he's not going to pay money, what is he going to do? He's going to be over the asay, b'kum v'asay. The asay usually is taking lulav. So if you don't spend, not doing the asay just means not taking the lulav. By shvius, if a person, how you're not doing the asay? Not doing the asay means you're being ma'abed peiris shvius, b'kum v'asay, you're doing something. So therefore, says the Chassam Sofer, if the reason why by an asay the cap is 20% because it's not as bad just avoiding doing a mitzvah, but if avoiding doing a mitzvah means doing it physically by shvius, it's doing it physically, ruining the peiris, it could be even by an asay, you'll have to give kol mamoinoi. The same is the opposite, says the Chassam Sofer. What's a lav? Can anybody offer a lav that's not being over the lav is not b'kum v'aseh? You don't do anything. By not doing something, you're over on the lav. Oh, very good. That's the case that the Chassam Sofer brings. Noiser, you don't do any ma'isa. Noiser, if you leave it over, you're over on a lav. So this says the Chassam Sofer, since you're not doing it by Maisa, it could be over there, you only have to pay up until 20% not to be over the lav. The Minchas Chinuch goes on Baal Tolan, not paying a worker, which would be a lav, and there also it's B'Sheval Taisa. Let's say you could work it out to not to be over the lav, but it'll cost you more than 20%. Says the Minchas Chinuch, since it's B'Sheval Taisa, you don't have to pay more than 20%. So this halacha of by mitzvahs that you gift up until 20%, and by loisas is kol memoinoi, the way we see so far from the Chassam Sofer, it's not totally in asay or in lav, it's totally if you're going to be over the aveira physically, or you're just not going to be over or not be makayim the asay. Me'idoch, in Shailos Teshuvas Maharit, the Rivosh and Siman Shin Pei Zayin, the Rivosh learns this din of 20% by Shar Mitzvahs is by Asay across the board. Doesn't make a difference what type of Asay. And a Lois Asay, always you have to give Kol Mamoinoi, even like a case you said, a case of Noisa, you have to give Kol Mamoinoi. So just to be Masakim, what we had today, this morning, Meiser, to give Meiser, either it's learned from this week's parsha or from Aser to Aser. machlokes if it's deiraisa, derabbanon, or minig. The maximum of 20% is for sure a derabbanon. And we saw a shiloh machlokes if one is allowed to give more than 20%, or is it an eitzah toiva, or it's an isser. And then we moved on these dinim to shar mitzvahs, which we saw by other mitzvahs, even a minimum of 10%, but a maximum by a say of 20%, and by a lav, kol memoinoi. And then we saw a shaila, if kol memoinoi and 20% by mitzvahs is the chiluk, a straight asay and a lois asay, or it depends if you're over the asay only b'sheva al taisa over there, if it's where it's set 20%, and if let's say over b'kum vasay, or by a lav, the same thing, would also depend how much, if you have to give 20% to kol memoinoi. Have a good Shabbos.
What's the source of